Askren Paul, how many pay-per-view? A million would be a good guess. That might sound small to you guys, by the way, because you've heard, yeah, this fight did a million in the world of pay-per-view is a unicorn. It is such a rarity, and that's back when pay-per-view was a thing. I mean, back when pay-per-view was the way to watch the mega fights of the world, a million was a home run. I can tell you, I had the second largest, I apologize, I had the largest live gate of all time, personalizing this, but numbers that I know because I had access to them. Largest live gate in MMA history, and one of the largest pay-per-views. It was against Anderson. We barely cleared a million, to put that into perspective. Barely. And at that time, we were one of the I think it was fourth. I can't recall now. And the absolute largest live gate, very anticipated match, and we barely did a million. And I think that Paul versus Askren will do a million. Yeah. Well, you guys will know from my YouTube page. But that's not only an audit, it's a public audit. I could never deny those numbers or change those numbers. You have the same access. I don't have any access by owning the page than you guys have by just scrolling down and seeing how many people look. I bring that to you because we did a piece here like 2 or 3 weeks ago on Askren and Paul. And it wasn't some great piece. Like, I didn't have Askren on. I didn't have Paul on. It was just me sitting here talking about these two guys. It did 723,000 views in 48 hours. And I was sitting there with my partner, Ryan. We're going through, what is this? This was never supposed to do this. Well, let's do another one. Maybe it was just some weird day and the YouTube algorithm and it got spread around. Let's do another. We do another one, just like 500,000 views. Now it's almost like I'll go out of my way to talk about Askren and Paul because it's such incredibly good business. But when I bring that to you, when I tell you that almost 800,000 people want to hear me talk about these two guys for 5 minutes, yeah, man, I think 1 million people are going to want to actually see the guys. That's what I think. I don't have any better rationale. There's better analytics to do than that, but those are mine. So I'm just sharing with you how I've come to that conclusion, not to mention Paul has done 1 million before. I mean, right? History is the best trajectory for the future. And Paul's last card he was on did like 1.6. Now, it's hard to know who was there to see Paul because Iron Mike was on the card. Iron Mike's big comeback fight. But it's also tough for Iron Mike. And the way this will work in the world of promotion, all credit will go to the main event. And moreover, all credit will then be taken by the winner of the main event, even if he's not the one that brought the eyeballs in. But moving forward, the promoters and the media will credit the success not only to the main event, but to the winner of the main event. People deemed that Mike Tyson won. Now, you might also think Mike Tyson won, but if you remember that night, it was a draw. Everybody's forgotten it was a draw. And just credit it to Iron Mike, which is why they're getting ready to roll out the red carpet and pay him a whole bunch of money for his next fight. I think they might be looking at it wrong. I think it might be Paul that brought in these eyeballs. Paul thinks that. Paul agrees with me. That's why Paul has left and is no longer co-main eventing. He is going to headline his own card. He thinks he was the draw. I share that with you because, while none of us actually know the answer, one of those two guesses is right. That was either Mike is going to do great business or some promoter is going to grossly overpay Mike and go out of business, which is what most boxing guys do, right? The leaders of boxing are no smarter than the dum-dums that are doing the sport. But the same thing goes for Paul. And I think Paul's going to be on the right side of this. I think that Paul was the driving force. I think that Mike was very interesting. But there was a lot of people come from my age group. We were going to watch that for nostalgia. Sure we were. Iron Mike Tyson, of course we're going to watch that. There was a lot of people that I had to talk to that I had to tell them who he was. They were just too young. They just missed the Mike Tyson era. Got some kids that I work with that I coach in wrestling, college kids though, that 18 to 22-year-old. I had to tell them who Mike Tyson was. So it's one of those things where I'm not certain the credit doesn't go to Paul, and we're going to find this out. We're going to find this out both ways. Find it out when Askren fights Paul, see what those numbers are. If that's some crazy number, the promoter that is now dumb enough to give Mike Tyson real money to do a fight is going to be sweating bullets. He's going to be trying to get out of that fight. Trust me when I tell you this.